Hi everyone, welcome to our demo of AeroGear Digger. What we'll show today is how to install Digger locally on OpenShift, how to kick off a build using a Jenkins CLI tool, and how to install the built application to an emulator. The requirements for running Digger are Docker, OpenShift, and Ansible. First off, run OC cluster up, which brings up OpenShift locally on your machine. Once this is up and running, you can navigate to the OpenShift console using the provided link in the documentation. The default login credentials are developer and the password is developer. Once logged in, you can see that this is a fresh installation of OpenShift. The next step is to clone the installer and run the Ansible playbook command to trigger the installation. Once the installer is cloned, cd into the directory and run the command provided in the documentation. We use the cluster up sample inventory, which has all the configuration required for an installation on cluster up. A playbook is also provided, which should be used. The installation can take some time and is mostly automated. There are, however, a few manual steps required. The first manual step is to accept the Android SDK license by hitting enter after it is outputted. This is required for the playbook to continue. The second point in the installation, where the user is prompted to carry out a manual step, is to add a public key to the Jenkins instance. Instructions and the required URL are provided by the playbook. This step is also required to continue with the installation. Once done, hit enter to continue with the installation. Once all the steps are completed, the playbook will output information about the installation, including the Jenkins instance URL and credentials. Log in using the default credentials, admin and password. This is a new Jenkins installation which has only a sample build. Next, we'll see how to build a sample application. First of all, install the Jenkins CLI tool called Digkins. Log into the Jenkins instance using the provided command, giving the username and password. There is a sample application provided in the documentation, which we'll use for this demo. Create the job using the command shown, where a name for the build and the application's GitHub URL is passed. Once the job is created, we can then kick off a build. The build logs can be followed again using the command shown. While this is running, we can see that the build is running in OpenShift. There is a new pod created where the build is executed. This provides full build isolation. Now that the build is triggered, we can see in the logs that it is progressing. The output here shows dependencies being downloaded. Once the build is done, the container will be deleted. Okay, the build is showing successful and now we can see the pod is terminating and is now deleted. Now that the application is built successfully, we can go back to the instructions. There is a sample command to retrieve a URL for the artifact. Run this command to get the URL. Using wget and the URL, the binary can be downloaded. Next, we are going to show the device installed on an emulator. Using Android Studio, here's one I prepared earlier, virtual device already created. We're going to use this one. It's a Nexus 5X with API 25. Once the virtual device is created, go to the emulator folder and start the emulator. Once the emulator is running, we can see the new virtual device with only the default applications installed. Go to the folder where the APK file was downloaded. The file we want is the app-debug.apk. Run adb install, providing the file name, which installs the application to the device. We can now see the simple Android application is installed. So that's the end of the demo. To recap, we ran OC cluster up to run OpenShift locally, installed AeroGear Digger on OpenShift using Ansible, stepped through some sample commands to build and install an Android application from source code to an app running on device. Thanks for watching.